Hello and welcome to Sandwell Fascinating Facts. To make this a little bit more interesting, we're going to do it in the form of a quiz. So we've got 10 facts and we want you to guess what the answer might be. And then after each fact, we'll tell you what the answer actually is. Right then, question 1. Wednesbury MP during World War I, Jack Norton Griffiths, once won a bet by a remarkable feat of eating. But what did he eat? Was it A, an entire 3-tier wedding cake, B, liver cooked in lager, or C, a live monkey? So have you made up your mind? Well, the answer is C, a live monkey. Empire Jack, as he was nicknamed, was the Conservative MP for Wednesbury from 1910 to 1918 and was a civil engineer who set up independent tunnelling companies in the Royal Engineers in 1915 to mine under the German trenches. He recruited a large number of Tipton and Wednesbury miners who were sent to the front without anything but the most basic military training. Okay, so another MP question next. What record did Smethwick MP Alfred Dobbs set on the 27th of July 1945? Was it A, the UK long jump record? He jumped 17 feet 2 1/4 inches. Was he the shortest serving MP since the Great Reform Bill? He was MP for just 4 hours. Or was he C, the fastest motorcycle ride from Land's End to John O'Groats in 31 hours 10 minutes with an average speed of 27 miles per hour? Have you made your decision yet? Well, the answer is B. Alfred Dobbs was killed in a car crash in Doncaster 4 hours after the count was completed in Smethwick. Alfred Dobbs was a bootmaker by profession, born in Wellingborough, Northamptonshire. He moved to Leeds and became involved in trade union and Labour politics, being elected to Leeds City Council and serving as chairman of the Labour Party in 1942 to 1943. Leaving MPs, our next question comes from Rowley Regis. What was the occupation of George Smith, who was born in Rowley Regis in 1805? Was he A, a royal pastry chef to Queen Victoria? Was he B, a hangman? Or was he C, a lion tamer? The answer is C, he was a hangman. Smith was known as the Dudley Throttler, or higgler, being a black country slang term for a hangman. He was renowned for his long white coat and top hat, which he wore at public hangings. He was also known for being particularly fond of Black Billy rum. This may have been the cause of dropsy, from which he suffered in his later years. In 1840, he was serving a prison sentence at Stafford Gaol for debt. He had previously been imprisoned for drunkenness and, more disturbingly, for running naked through the streets of Wednesbury. The famous hangman William Calcraft went to Stafford Gaol to conduct the double hangings of James Owen and George Thomas on the 11th of April 1840. This was for the Bloody Steps murder of Christina Collins at Brindley Bank near Rugeley. As it was a double execution, Calcraft wanted an assistant, but none of the turnkeys, as warders were known at the time, would volunteer. So the governor asked the prisoners if any of them would help on the promise of an early release. Smith volunteered and was deemed successful by the governor, with Owen and Thomas seeming to die almost instantly the bolt was drawn, and his career went from there. So we're now travelling back to the 1640s. Jeannie Horwood of Sandwell Hall was a prominent royalist during the English Civil War. She smuggled in the 1640s the equivalent of £8 million worth of gold from the East Coast to King Charles I's headquarters in Oxford. But how did she hide it from Cromwell's Roundheads? Was it A, in her petticoats and the petticoats of her ladies in waiting? Was it B, in a consignment of hollowed out Bibles? Or was it C, in barrels of lard? Well, the answer is C. Jeannie's mother had been mistress of the Royal Laundry at a time when soap was made from rendered down animal fats. Any roundhead searching for gold or any other contraband may well have been rather reluctant to dig too deeply into barrels of lard. Anyway, the ruse was successful and the gold was delivered to King Charles so he could pay his armies. Her husband Broom left the country at the start of the Civil War and acted as an arms dealer, buying weapons and gunpowder for the Royalist army. And here is the next question. So, which pop star was filmed in the climactical scene from the 1973 movie Take Me High, in and around the GKN factory in Smethwick, and piloting a hovercraft along part of the canal? Was it A, Cliff Richard? Was it B, Bob Marley? Or was it C, Roy Castle? The answer is Cliff Richard. Take Me High was Cliff's last movie and frankly a bit of a flop. The title track, released as a single, reached only number 27 in the hit parade. The movie poster featured Cliff standing in front of a painting of Spaghetti Junction, which had opened in 1973. The movie has only recently been released on DVD. Question 6. Mervyn Peake, author of the Gorman Gas trilogy, was an official war artist who wrote poems about and painted workers at which Smethwick factory? Was it A, Chance's Glassworks? Was it B, Ruskin Pottery? Or was it C, GKN? Well, the answer is A. It was Chance's Glassworks. In January 1943, Peake received a 35 guinea commission from the War Artist Advisory Committee to create a painting of glassblowers at the Chance factory in Smethwick, where these highly skilled craftspeople were working in the only factory in Britain producing cathode ray tubes, an essential part of radar set screens. Of this commission, Peake wrote, "Commissioned as a war artist to record my impressions of work in a glassblowing factory near Birmingham, I found on entering the huge, ruinous, grimy, wharf-walled buildings a world upon its own, a place of roaring fires and monstrous shadows." This original commission was so well received that in the summer of 1943 he was granted a further 162 guinea commission to work at Chance's for a further 3 months. As well as producing 3 more large paintings, which is now in the collections of the Imperial War Museum and Manchester City Art Gallery, he produced a large number of sketches and drawings, and also a poem entitled Glassblowers, which went on to be the title piece in a poetry collection published in 1950. The poem described the Chance factory as a poetry of barbarous birth, this theatre of fitful light. And the workers, their cheeks are blown like gourds that sweat and flush, with goblin hues, rose and gold, diaphanous. Right then, question 7. The Albury works of Albright and Wilson produced what special weapon in World War II after the evacuation of the British Army from Dunkirk in order to hamper any German invasion of the UK mainland? Was it A, a cyanide-filled bomb to be dropped by aircraft? Was it B, a phosphorus-filled milk bottle fired through a drain pipe? Or was it C, tar-filled barrels to set the surface of the sea alight? And the answer is B. The British Army had left most of its tanks and artillery and transport in France after the defeat of the British Expeditionary Force. The Ministry of Defence, with Winston Churchill taking a personal interest, was desperate for weapons to combat German tanks should an invasion actually happen. One of the most dangerous weapons of World War II, to its users anyway, was the glass bottle anti-tank phosphorus grenade, fired through a converted drain pipe, invented by chemical manufacturers Albright and Wilson in 1940. They were never actually issued to the British Army at the front line. Question 8. Whom of the following is known to have visited Hayden Old Hall? Is it A, the future King Charles II hiding from Roundheads after the Battle of Worcester on the 6th of September 1651? Is it B, Bonnie Prince Charlie on the 30th of November 1745, trying to rally support for the Jacobite cause in England whilst his army was camped at Derby? Or is it C, Dick Turpin on one of his amazing long-distance rides on the 4th of May 1736? Well, the answer is this is a bit of a trick question, as none of the above is true. But there have been a lot of similar rumours and mistelling of the story of Hayden Old Hall over the years. These stories seem to have stuck in local memory. The hall sometimes is called the Tudor Hall, but was actually probably built in the latter half of the 1600s, and the Haydens, who owned it, were part of the middling sort by this time, fairly wealthy, but certainly not rich or aristocratic. By the early 1900s, only part of the hall was being lived in, and the rest was derelict. If you look at this photo, you can see this end is in a fairly poor state. If you look closely, you can see that the top windows are smashed and that the house is actually being buttressed. The house was restored in the 1930s and converted to look like a very high status property with a great hall and grand fireplaces, things it never had in the 1600s. And at this time it became tea rooms and a function room. Okay, so question 9. We all know that the Titanic's anchors were made in Netherton. Well, actually they weren't. The main parts were made in Stourbridge and Newcastle under Lyme and only assembled in Netherton. But what parts of the ship were made in Rowley Regis? Was it A, third class door handles, kick plates and fingerboards? Was it B, the funnels? Or was it C, urinals, sinks and toilet bowls? Well, the answer is C, the urinals. The Dalton factory in Rowley Regis was one of the UK's biggest suppliers of ceramic sanitary ware and had a contract from Harland and Wolff to supply these items across their products. Surprisingly, the third class loos had automatic flushes. This was supposedly as most third class passengers were assumed not to have seen a flushing loo before, unlike passengers in first and second class. They were expected to flush their own toilets. Okay, last question then, question 10. What sport last played out on the streets of Smethwick in 1834? Was it bull running or bull baiting? B, cheese rolling? Or C, archery? Well, it was bull running. The ancient sport of bull running, such as is still practised in Spain, saw a bull or bulls being chased through the streets of a town by a very noisy mob before being slaughtered. It was widely acknowledged that beef needed to be tenderised by making a bull exercise vigorously prior to being slaughtered. It was more common to tether a bull to a stout post and set dogs on him, with much betting taking place on all manner of outcomes. I think most of us would know what outcome we'd quite like these days. Okay, so that's the end of our Sandwell 10 fascinating facts for you to join in with as part of Black Country Day. Sadly, of course, lots of events and activities have been cancelled this year for Black Country Day, but we hope you enjoyed our little quiz. So continue to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and we've got loads more activities coming up over the next few weeks.